ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Zombie Train, episode 226. I am your host, Ellis, otherwise known as Train Man. And if you want to see this footage right here in real time, not 8 times speed, and hear me talk about the work on the world of Tolbrand, then feel free to look at the episode of Under Construction called, what's it going to be called? Eternal Night or something? Because I accidentally broke it, you'll see in this video. Anyways, to move on quickly, get to the question this week. It's Mike Pericolosi in episode 201, which was called Little Engines. And the question was about big N&W steam. Now, specifically, the wording of the question is, did the ZT ever use any big N&W steam engines like Class A's? Why Class Mallets? Question mark. So, we did, but not we. Like, the Zombie Train itself never used any motive power that wasn't 3254, aside from brief stints when we were dealing with Portland. Or when we were in Portland, we used 4449, and then at one point, the Beta Rail engine number 18 headed the train to get from Portland to Tillamook after the branch was patched up, and 3254 was partially disassembled. So, while that happened, we were using 4449 as our engine, but that was a very, very brief period of time, and kind of ended badly for 4449. Anyways, the Zombie Train Incorporated definitely did, however. We used every engine we could get a handle on. So, basically, the question is, if the question is, did the Zombie Train use X existing steam engine, unless that steam engine is at the bottom of a bay or something, the answer is probably yes. The answer is almost definitely yes. Because at one point we ran out of steam engines that could be restored, for anybody with any, for somebody with basically unlimited resources, which was us at the time, which, obviously resources in some senses were very limited because it was the middle of World War Z, but at the same time we had people, we had all the authority we could possibly need, and anything we could not immediately get, most of the time we could ask for, ask the military for, and they would at least point us in the right direction, which, for all that I rag on them for, they were helpful. Sort of. Anyways, there are 3 major engines that come up when you bring up this big N&W steam question. First one is 1218, obviously. The second one's 2050, which is a Y3, and then the third one is 2156, which is a Y6. Those are 3A and 6A. And then 1218 is just an A class, we really don't know. That's a 2664, but we're gonna start with 2050, because 2050 was the hardest one to get running again. Now, this is in Union, Illinois, at the Illinois Railway Museum. I've talked about their place before. Let me just look over there again, because they were the ones fiddling around with electrification. And I like their museum setup more than the place I'm about to talk about. And they, yeah, hold on. No, wait, was that here originally? Because I went back and forth on this already. Yeah, it was. Okay, so, and now this is not working. I just want to see this so I can look at the track map again. See, sorry. Okay, so something's not right over here. Either way, the 2156 is a little bit worse for wear. It hangs out inside. Oh no, sorry, 2050. 2050 is a little bit worse for wear, despite the fact that it hangs out inside. It's in a shed, it's surrounded by other stuff, which doesn't move too much, and on top of that, it's rusted to hell. It had a lot of components that needed replacing, or just basically significant work. And when we embarked on that project, which is part of a whole Illinois Railway Museum project, we sort of realized that it was going to take a while to do. And it did. It was an extra effort. Thankfully, the people that were heading all of the Illinois Railway Museum stuff really got a handle on what they were doing. And additionally, they were able to sort of requisition manpower from the surrounding area, get things in and out easily because of the electrification that we talked about in a previous episode. And moreover, as I've said previously, they are really in the middle of nowhere, which they're in the plains, so it's a little bit dangerous, but once we locked the place down, we only had to evacuate because of huge zombie hordes a couple of times, which is a couple more than you'd like, but admittedly not that terrible when you're out on the Great Plains. You become like a zombie magnet out there, and the zombies have lots and lots and lots of friends. But all things considered, they have a decent track map. They still have a weird switchback to get things in and out of the central barns, sort of. And one of them has incredibly tight turns, but that one's not for any big engines, thank God. And the whole thing was, this place has most of the stuff that we could need. They do so much, and additionally we brought stuff up there, and again, like I said, they even had more than we expected originally. So things were easier than we had initially figured, but it still took quite a while to get that engine going anywhere. Even still, it's not a very large engine. We sort of just sent it down to Appalachia, sort of where it belonged, and told it to run coal mines for, not told it, but had it running coal mines for most of its days. And it's the same story with the other engines, but that one in particular was just a difficult reconstruction. Now, the next one down came from my personal hell on earth, which was the Museum of Transportation in St. Louis. I already have griped about the track arrangement of this museum, and they have all sorts of stuff packed into very small spaces. And additionally, they have tracks that don't connect to anything anymore or are connected underneath the pavement. And A, that irks me. B, it made things needlessly difficult, and I've talked about my gripes with this place before, so I'm not going to get into it right now. But we got there, we saw plenty of stuff, and we sort of made smash and grabs at this place, with a little bit more smash than grab sometimes. There are turns which are obnoxious. You have to go back and forth about 50 times to get anything done. And additionally, there's a tunnel at one end of the property which is too narrow for anything at all. And one time we got something completely wedged in it. And that sort of limited us for a little while. But all things considered, the stuff we got out of there was passable. There were some engines that were in rough shape. I talked about the nightlight that's in there. 4450 something or whatever. And how much 4460. And how much of a pain that was. Or 4660. Yes, maybe. I have trouble remembering the numbers of these. Yeah, 4460. Alright, I should have just stuck with it, not second-guess myself too much. But this engine, despite sort of sitting exposed, was one of the easier, I won't say easiest, but one of the easier rollers out of there. It did have a lot of work to get done on it, but all things considered, it wasn't in terrible shape. It somehow was in better shape than the other engine that we got, than 2050. But all things considered, it did take a lot of work to get it running, and then we just sort of sent it down to Appalachia, coal mine land, and said, okay, you're going to serve out your days here. And it didn't really leave. The problem with these N&W engines is they don't go very fast. And, of course, that's usually fine, but you just sort of had to tailor the job to the engine you got. And in this case, we got these big, powerful Mallets with relatively small drivers, and so we sent them to do big, powerful Mallet with relatively small driver things, which generally encompasses the realms of coal trains. And that's exactly what it did. Now, the easiest, and I doubt this surprises anybody, but 1218, when it was stowed away, was midway through some work. And it needed to wrap up firebox work and boiler work. But when it came to start operating Mallets, 1218 was the most obvious choice because it was within spitting distance. It was down in Virginia, and which was a relative stomping ground for us. And additionally, it was quite far along in its restoration process. It was, it can roll around easily. It just needed some work on the inside, and then it would be done. It wasn't a huge insurmountable task. When we decided, hey, we need something really big to get coal down out of the mountains, 1218 was kind of the obvious choice. And we had it running, and at this point we had gotten pretty good at restoring engines. Oops, and I clicked by accident. I'm sorry. So I just screwed up something. I just screwed up how long this has got to go. Let me take a gander here. Oh well, I hope I don't overrun too much. But so yeah, it was we need a big mallet. We need something big and powerful and within arm's reach, so we don't have to run out somewhere ridiculously far and come back with an engine cross country. Now this is during the Zombie Train Incorporated era, and getting back with things cross country was relatively routine, but dealing with something that big was not something I wanted to do. And additionally, we did need a coal hauling engine. At the time, no. So there wasn't really another big mallet that we could go, oh, you know what, we'll grab this one. Just because, there are only a handful of mallets, period. Of the mallets in the U.S. that run regularly, that narrows it down a lot. And by a lot, I mean basically to zero at this point in time, or, when the Great Panic happened. And so, beggars can't be choosers in a sense, but we did get to pick basically, there couldn't have been a better candidate. That was my argument, at least. There was no downside to seeking out 1218 over the other available mallets. It was in a position where you could go get it. It was, in the hands of a relatively capable museum anyways. And, so it didn't have to go far to get major work. And on top of that, it was in really good shape. The other mallets in general that we had to deal with, especially the big boys who, nobody until UP, in original timeline, but nobody had even wanted to restore one of those. 1218 was the last running mallet except for 3985 with, UP Powerhouse behind it. And even 3985 was taken out of service in 2010, and when the Great Panic struck, it's not like there was any word on when we'd be getting that engine back. And when we got there, that engine needed a lot of work. I think I've talked about that. But, yeah, the big boys, the other N&W mallets, they didn't stack up in terms of ability, ease of getting running. And so then 1218, 1218 sort of migrated. It's strange. We didn't have a base of operations down there, really. So, when we got 1218 operational, moved her out of where she was, just to get her in a safer place to operate from, and then just started, basically ran her with a tool car all the time, which the crew would bunker in. They became their own mini zombie train. It was kind of hilarious. This needlessly large engine pulling one car and then tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of coal, however much coal we needed. And then, at some point we needed more, and so we decided to seek out the other mallets. They were on the table anyways, but that's what made it, a very good idea. So anyways, Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week. Train Man out.